Yeah. Threat of war? Yemen? Yeah, I saw earlier. Apparently you bombed, bro. Oh my god. Okay, wait. Okay, so we know what the Alien Enemies Act is. That's fucking crazy, okay? Because from what I'm reading so far, this doesn't apply to undocumented migrants. This applies to citizens, legal residents that were born in other countries or that just have dual citizenship. Trump enacts alien. Let's read about this real quick. Okay, we're going to go to NPR. Trump enact. Okay, in his latest move to clamp down on illegal immigration, President Trump has filed a presidential action invoking the Alien Enemies Act of 1798, seldom law that gives the president authority to detain and deport nationals of an enemy nation during wartime. It's only the fourth time in American history the president has used the act. The directive targets members of a Venezuelan prison gang and authorizes expedited removal of all Venezuelan citizens 14 and older who are not U.S. citizens or lawful permanent residents. From what I just read, I mean, I don't see anything that would make this specially pertain to undocumented migrants. Is this like going? Is this going to be like specially applied to undocumented migrants? Okay. An executive action signed in January has designated this Venezuelan gang as a terrorist organization, declaring that this terrorist organization, alongside MS-13, a gang with origins in El Salvador, not included in Saturday's action, present an unusual and extraordinary threat to the national security, foreign policy, and economy. The announcement from the White House came just hours before a federal judge issued a temporary restraining order against the removal of 5 Venezuelan men for 14 days under the expected invocation of the act. An emergency hearing on the matter will take place on Saturday evening. Okay. What I'm interested in is like the current systems in place in America to handle deporting individuals. Because like what I'm confused on is, you know, like Obama did it, Biden did it, Trump's done it. It's something Trump ran on was mass deportation. You know, just deporting undocumented migrants, right? I didn't like. I thought that like essentially, if someone's in our country undocumented in accordance with current law, ICE can arrest undocumented migrants and deport them. Is there like particular like court proceedings in which would have to apply to undocumented migrants in America that don't have a claim of asylum in order to be deported? I wish that there's a lawyer that I could talk to about this. Because I'm confused. Like, what court proceedings, like as soon as Donald Trump was inaugurated into office, what do we have? Like 800 through 1,200 individuals deported per day. Like, it doesn't seem that those individuals received due process. It seems like as soon as Donald Trump was inaugurated, they literally just started rounding up undocumented migrants and deporting them from America. So I'm confused if like there's some application of due process to undocumented migrants. Does that due process exist in all circumstances? And what is that due process? Because essentially, like the way that this article is describing the implementation of the Alien Enemies Act is basically a way to circumvent any due process for deporting undocumented migrants. I'd love to talk to a lawyer about this. But yo, Waller, thank you so much for the $50 super chat over on YouTube. Waller says, I appreciate you being open and honest about your own journey to rationality. I do hope that your streams continue to make Trump supporters stop and think. Here's my contribution to help out with that. Let's go. Well, first of all, Waller, I really appreciate you so much for the love. Everyone, please show some love to Waller down below in that chat right now. I thank you. Thank you so much, Waller. That is so incredibly kind. Pre-war. Yeah, I want to know what the implications of this are. Like, is the implication of this bill deporting some undocumented migrants without due process? And if so, is that different from the prior deportations of undocumented migrants already under his term? I'm very curious. Look at the consequences after the last time it was invoked. Yeah, the last time this law was invoked was like wasn't that like the internment camps for Japanese individuals during World War II? Like when the America put like over 100,000 Japanese citizens into camps. Yeah, because that seems like the application of this law. Why does this law still exist? Like the way that the language of this law is drafted, it just takes the rights away from citizens if you don't like the country they were born in. Like that's insane. That's insane. That is really, really, really insane. And I'm just curious, under what pretense is the invocation of this law being used now? Picasso's a lawyer. Talk to him. Where's a lawyer? Yo. Hey, if you're a lawyer watching on TikTok right now, and you know the answers to these questions, put a me in the chat. Okay? And don't troll. Don't troll. Because if you do troll, I'm going to embarrass you. All right? All right. So somebody in the chat says, I'm a lawyer. Their name is Harry Sisson Secret. Their bio is, I'm married. I am married Harry's mom after his dad divorced her. Okay, you're not a lawyer. I feel like this is probably not the best way to do this. Ginger, thank you so much for the $25 donation over on PayPal. Thank you for the love, Ginger. Everyone, please show some love to Ginger down below in that comment section. I really appreciate you for that. Thank you so much. Thank you, Ginger. That's very, very kind of you. Huge shout out to Ginger. Yeah. Where's Law, bro? Let's get this guy up here. This guy looks like a lawyer. We'll get Pitt up here. What's up, Mr. Lawyer Man? Can you explain to me the Alien Enemies Act and insofar as its implementation in the infringement of the apparent due process of undocumented migrants? And if so, has that due process been granted to undocumented migrants that have been deported already under Trump's administration? He just left. Is the Law of the Wild available? Yeah, whenever a law's out. You guys should send this live to Law. Talk to him real quick. All right. All right, maybe we'll just... All right, here's what we're going to do. We're going to continue with the debates for right now. But as soon as we could have like a lawyer join, that'd be nice. So please, like, share this live with any like TikTok lawyers that you know. Get them up in here. Because I want to ask him some questions. But we do need a lawyer. We need that lawyer, man. Gonna get that next guest up in here right now. View down in the bio. Hell yeah. All right. Everyone just give us a minute while we're getting the next guest up in here. Go ahead and spam MAGA down below in that chat if you want to join or hop in that queue. We got Lily loading up. Yeah, we'll try to get Law in here. Embers of Justice is a lawyer too. Okay, right now we're looking for Pisco, Embers of Justice, or Law of the Wild. Those are like the three named TikTok lawyers so far. Pisco, Justice, and Law of the Wild. Okay. Where are they at? Law by Mike, yeah. Attorney Martinez. We'll get somebody up in here. We're looking for a lawyer. I bet we could get one in here, not gonna lie. What's up? You vote for Trump?
Oh,
All right. Bro, ERRATA. Where's ERRATA? Apparently we have a lawyer in here. ERRATA. Found him. Hello.
Hi.
Hi. Are you a lawyer?
I am.
Sick. Are you familiar with the Alien Enemies Act?
I am, from a matter of history, and I've been reading up on it.
Okay. My question is, if you don't know the answer, that's fine. I understand. that there's specific lawyers for different things. Um, from what I'm reading about its invocation now is just to take due process away from undocumented migrants who he wants to deport. So for like a typical deportation of an undocumented migrant, does that undocumented migrant get due process?
Yes, there is a deportation hearing.
Okay. And has that deportation hearing been granted to like the undocumented migrants already deported under his term?
Theoretically, we don't know.
Oh, and is Donald Trump implementing this law to kind of get around the deportation hearing?
Exactly.
Okay. And do you know what the deportation hearing involves, or is that something you haven't worked with prior?
I do know a little bit.
Sweet.
So what the hearing is it's a pro forma hearing, and basically, it's meant to identify whether or not there is status or not. If there is not status, a person can present an argument that they should otherwise still not be. If a person has no status, that they can still sort of throw themselves on the mercy of the judge, and some judges will sort of delay the deportation. But in the first Trump administration, that almost never happened. In the Biden administration, judges did exercise a little bit more discretion.
Okay, and that discretion would involve if like the undocumented migrant is seeking any type of either temporary residency or permanent residency, and if they are, they can delay the deportation.
Yeah, or whether there is, or whether or not, for example, they have a basis for
Oh, like an asylum claim.
right, exactly.
Okay, so they basically the deportation hearing, first evaluates if this undocumented migrant has an asylum claim. If so, they then process the undocumented migrant to be a documented asylum seeker. If they don't have an asylum claim, they then evaluate if a stay should be granted because that undocumented migrant is in the process of seeking either temporary or permanent residency.
Well, or perhaps they're a victim of domestic abuse, or perhaps there's misidentification.
Okay, or like other types of humanitarian concerns that don't classify as an asylum claim, but would still like fall under that bubble of if we were to deport this individual, circumstances would be significantly worse because of a claim such as DV, etc.
Yes.
Okay, so I think yeah, so basically a non-asylum asylum claim. Okay, okay, all right. Hey, and then the implementation of this law is like no deportation hearing for any of these undocumented migrants. We get to say that they're deported without said hearing.
Well, the scary part of this, of course, is that it's possible that the other countries will say enough of this crap. We're not going to accept people back without some sort of due process that correctly identifies these folks as residents of or citizens of Venezuela. And
Oh, okay.
And so at that point, just like in Nazi Germany, it's possible that when they tried to deport the travelers, there was nobody who would take them, and that's how the concentration camps began.
Jesus Christ. So if they can't, so just to clarify, if they can't be deported to Venezuela, you're saying that this law could like legitimize putting them in a camp.
Yes, and the scary, conspiracy-minded persons among us might realize that that's a way to get undocumented labor without paying them, and therefore shore up the labor shortages in the agricultural realm.
What was Trump's involvement? Didn't Trump have some involvement with like Guantanamo Bay earlier this year?
Yeah, he wanted to use Guantanamo Bay as a detainment facility for people who were exceptionally dangerous, but they didn't do any vetting to make sure that those people were exceptionally dangerous.
Well, I mean, wouldn't they be clarified as exceptionally dangerous under like the Alien Enemies Act?
Well, his idea was that these would be people who had been convicted of crimes, but there were people who were sent to Guantanamo Bay that were
Mm.
were not were not criminals. The interesting thing about this, though, is that Guantanamo Bay doesn't have the capacity for very many people, so therefore it wasn't suited particularly well for mass detainment.
Okay. All right. Well, what the fuck? Somebody in my chat just said some crazy shit. Okay, so yeah, it's like people suspected of committing crimes sent to Guantanamo Bay without due process, and the Alien Enemies Act could like further, abate and provide more legal reasoning behind the subjection to a camp or deportation and the lack of good reason or proper due process.
Right. And then there's the piece though that we haven't been fully exploring yet, and it isn't is that they've been scaling up the ability of ICE to detain these folks through the private prison industry.
Wait, can you repeat that? I'm so sorry.
They've been scaling up the ability of ICE to detain people through the private prison industry.
Oh, okay. So when you said that they've been scaling up that ability, does that mean that ICE is detaining people from the private prison industry? Like they're getting undocumented migrants from private prisons and detaining them?
You know, they've been building camps.
Oh, oh, okay. So ICE is building camps under the guise of private prison industry to detain undocumented migrants.
Yes.
Okay, Jesus Christ, man. See, this is why conversations like this with people that I don't disagree with can be like very, very valuable sometimes because this explains a lot more to me than I knew previously, and it looks like this is already happening in Texas. Well, hey, I appreciate you so much for coming up on the live and kind of filling me in a little bit more. I'm sure that you also, taught a couple people watching some things, and I appreciate it.
It's my pleasure. I'll drop down.
Have a good one.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, for everybody watching, I'm probably gonna confer with like a handful of other people. Then I will probably make a video about this, kind of going over its implications. One thing I actually do want to check. What are like the oh fuck! I just dropped my charger. Oh my god, God! You know those MagSafe chargers on the damn Lapple on the damn Apple fucking what you may call it laptops? It just fell out of the laptop as I was moving it and hit my big toe. Oh, ow! That shit hurt, man. That shit hurt bad. All right, guys. I actually want to see what have the TikTok news people been saying about this. Okay, I know Aaron Parnas has already covered it. We're gonna go ahead and get an evaluation of what the TikTok news people are saying about this. I just already know Aaron Parnas has already posted about it, so let's go and see what he has to say. We're having a little special moment on live, because we want to evaluate this.
Some major breaking news right now. Donald Trump has officially invoked the Alien Enemies Act of 1798, marking only the fourth time in recent American history that this wartime authority was ever invoked by a president of the United States. Today's invocation, according to the proclamation, specifically targets Tren de Aragua gang members, any Venezuelan individual over the age of 14 years old and a member of the Tren de Aragua gang can now be targeted under this wartime authority. This wartime proclamation will allow the Trump administration to speed up mass deportations for those individuals who are not lawful permanent residents and who are not naturalized in the United States. One of the most recent times this authority was invoked was during World War I and World War II, and it led to the internment of Japanese migrants. Right now, this invocation is limited to just these Tren de Aragua members. I'll do a full legal breakdown of what this means on my Substack shortly. Be sure to subscribe for free at the top.
Okay, yeah. So, like right now, right, in accordance with the statements coming from Trump and the White House, which, by the way, okay, probably shouldn't be taken too seriously. Right now, the invocation of this act is seemingly, according to Trump's White House, being used to speed up the deportations of individuals belonging to a Venezuelan gang. I think like the really negative implications of this is setting a precedent that you can ethically and legally strip people from due process. Okay, I don't care that he's saying this will only target members of a gang. Okay, even members of a gang, deserve due process. And the moment we stop extending due process to people in America is a very dangerous and volatile moment that sets America on a very scary and harmful trajectory. Okay. And then B, the possible other uses that the usage of this act can lead to. I would say that we'll probably see a lot of media backlash and conversation of the invocation of this act when Donald Trump inevitably deploys its usage outside of Venezuelan gang members. And I think that's coming. I think that's very obviously coming. I think what Donald Trump could end up doing, now, of course, this is mere speculation, so that's why I say could end up doing, is trying to make this law applicable to essentially all undocumented migrants in America. Get Rolo up. Who is Rolo? I don't see anybody by the name of Rolo in the queue. If I do, I will add them up. Where are they? Where they're an immigration lawyer? Oh, perfect. Perfect. Wait. I saw that somebody said named Rolo said I requested in the chat. Oh, beautiful. They are in the queue. What's up, Rolo?
Dean,
How we doing?
how's it going, my friend? Doing good.
Doing good. Great. So you're an immigration lawyer.
Yes, I
All right.
specialize in criminal defense and immigration and the intersectionality thereof.
That's
Fun stuff.
exactly what those are the exact qualifications that I feel like I, as well as everybody else watching, would like to see in the next guest on the stream. So you are in the right place at the right time. We appreciate you for being here. Give us your your synopsis, your breakdown on Donald Trump's enactment of the Alien Enemies Act.
Yeah, this is horrible. This is worst case scenario that could happen, for people here in the US, right? If you remember the Alien Enemies Act of 1798, this is what they used for the Japanese internment camps. This is what gave them the authority to gather up people who looked Japanese, not necessarily that they were enemy combatants or that they were here undocumented or anything, but people who were here that were citizens of the US got their properties confiscated and they were gathered and put up in concentration camps. That's where they got the authority, and that is still good law. So what Trump is trying to do here is, or what he's going to try to do is to invoke that same act to come after immigrants. Now, supposedly he's starting with Venezuelans from the Tren de Aragua. But my question is, how the heck are he supposed to know whether you're part of the Tren de Aragua or not? So this is going to expand to anyone who is suspected of that and who is from Venezuela, right? So it's going to include people who are here seeking asylum. And as you well know, asylum.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, this is going to expand to asylum seekers who came here lawfully or in between ports of entry. You can still come in and claim asylum. They have put up their I-589s, which is the application for asylum. They have applied for the EADs or employment authorization cards. So, and they have gotten like their social security numbers, and they're here waiting for their due process or waiting for their hearings to come up, right? Yeah. So they've done everything the right way. Now, with this invocation of the Alien Enemies Act, it gives the president the authority to skip due process, claiming that they are enemy combatants, right? And by claiming that they're enemy combatants, now they can limit all forms of due process, take them away from their hearings coming up. This could be like mothers, it could be fathers, it could be like kids, 14 years of older. I mean, what the heck, right? And then they can be arrested, detained indefinitely, and then, deported without due process. And this is just the beginning, because next is going to be like the Mara Salvatrucha, which would encompass people from El Salvador, Guatemala, Nicaragua, where they're kind of like, thriving, right? And if I'm from Guatemala, which I'm from Guatemala City, um, then if someone says that I am part of the Mara Salvatrucha, are they going to detain me too, even though I am a citizen? Does that make sense? Because historically, it doesn't matter whether you're here legally or not.
Yeah.
The way that they have implemented this is for anyone who looks a certain way. And we can see that in the case of the Japanese internment camps. So, and take away this act. Donald Trump has already been doing this. Now, I think you heard of that person who was from Colombia, um, who had a tattoo on his neck. He came here lawfully through the CBP1 application, and he got to his appointment. And that day after, Donald Trump canceled CBP1, which allowed people to kind of get in line, and then show up for asylum. And then he canceled it. And because he had a tattoo that someone thought that it could be related to the Tren de Aragua, he was sent to Guantanamo Bay
Holy
as
shit.
some kind of like incurable criminal, right? And he was sent there. No due process, just assumptions based on a tattoo that didn't have anything to do with it. But his family and everyone says, no, this guy is legit. He doesn't have any problems. He's not a criminal. But he was in Guantanamo Bay, right? So there's already extremely crazy violations of due process to immigrants as it is right now, that invoking this act is only going to exacerbate that. Let me give you an example of how he's doing this. Um, the previous attorney mentioned, she alluded to expedited removals, where people are getting their due process rights basically taken away
Yeah.
through the expedited removal process. Now, when before Trump, you were subject to expedited removal, meaning that you can just be taken into custody and removed from the country without the ability to see a judge, an immigration judge, if you had been here for 14 days or less and within 100 air miles of the border. Those were if they caught you within that time frame and that space in that within those miles, then they can just grab you and then, you know, deport you without due process,
Yeah.
without having to see a judge.
Mm.
Once you were past 100 miles or over the 15 days, like 2 weeks, now you had the opportunity to go see a judge before being removed. And this is an immigration judge. Now, what Trump did is he came in and said, okay, expedited removals are now different. And through an executive order, he said, anyone who's been here for 2 years or less and anywhere in the United States is now subject to expedited removals. Now, this includes people who presented themselves at the border. They have all their information. They filed their I-589s, like I explained, right? That's the application for asylum. And they've been going to their courts. They just haven't reached the 2-year mark. Now, if they catch you, even if you have your work permit, even if you did everything 100% according to the law, you are still subject to an expedited removal, and they can deprive you of seeing an immigration judge.
Where removal to where?
Okay, so when it means subject to removal is their home countries.
Oh my
Right.
God. So
So
this
if you're
is so this is worse than remain in Mexico. This isn't just saying that asylum seekers have to wait outside of America and Mexico while their claim for asylum is processed. This is sending asylum seekers back to where they're seeking asylum from.
Yeah, they're basically canceling their right to due process seeking
Yeah.
asylum in the US by expanding the definition of who is subject to expedited removals.
And I mean, assuming that these asylum seekers in the process of claiming asylum, going to their court hearings, etc., are deported back to their home country, that kind of just cancels their claim. Their due process is gone. They are no longer. Are they still like in the systems in America for their asylum claim? Or I'd assume not, because
No.
if they're not showing up to their court hearings because they got deported, that their asylum claims kind of just thrown out.
with the expedited removal, their
Yeah.
order removed. So there's like a final order of removal, and then they're sent back to their countries. Does
Oh
that make sense?
Jesus. Yeah.
So back to their deaths, my friend, because um, the stuff that's happening, people who have these claims, uh, most of them have solid claims, but because how the law works when it comes to asylum, I don't know if you know this or not, but about 90 to 95% of asylum claims are ultimately denied by judges, not because the claims aren't solid, but because the laws are so horrible that you can fail an asylum claim on like 15 to 20 different grounds. And if the judge says, even if everything is good, but one of the issues here in asylum doesn't fit, they can just deny it. And that's what they do, right? So then they're sent back to their deaths. I've had clients who within a couple of weeks of being returned to their countries have been unalived, right?
Wow.
And
That's
that's
bad.
the issue here. So they don't care. And this administration is violating people's constitutional rights of due process by changing the goalpost on what it means to be subject to an expedited
Has
removal.
this been held up in any courts? Have there been any like federal judges that have contested that executive order, or I mean, has it kind of gotten through?
We have organizations like the ACLU. You have organizations, that are a lot of immigrant advocacy groups that have been filing lawsuits and everything.
Yeah.
But it's a long, long process, and it's. But before it gets to the courts and they block him, one thing he's already known, and he said that he's not going to follow court orders. We know he's disobeying court orders too,
What can you
right?
do in that
And
circumstance?
and two,
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Feel free to continue to explain. But I just have a
yeah,
follow up
no, no,
question.
no. Like, no, that's good. What can I? Nothing. Like besides like report it, and then maybe like some class action lawsuits coming down the pipe, stuff like that. But for now, there is nothing that we can do because the way that they're doing this, their goal is to deport as many brown people as fast as possible and limit their due process to the max. And that's
Yeah.
exactly what they're doing. That's what they said they were going to do. And that's what they're doing right now. They're even going after Cubans. I don't know if you knew this, but Cubans, when they crossed into the border, they could ask for an asylum. And it was a special asylum where they can have a pathway to citizenship through being a legal permanent resident and stuff like that. Right now, they're revoking those claims and they're taking people into custody and they're removing them back to Cuba, even though they came here and did the right things. So Cubans vote like at a 66% MAGA, they're like Trumpists. And now they're like crying because, you know, they're going after Cubans.
Okay. So just to make sure that that I have this
So
right. So like in like layman's terms, Donald Trump passed an executive order essentially allowing him to revoke and terminate the due process of an asylum claim from any asylum seeker that's come into America in the last 2 years, and he's revoked and he's reinstantiated a law from the 18th century that right now he's stated his intended purpose is to use it to deport anybody who's suspected of being in a Venezuelan gang without evidence.
yeah, essentially, right. What he's trying to do is claim that as many immigrants that are enemy combatants, because the whole thing with
Yeah.
the Alien Act of 1878 is that if you classify certain types of people as enemy combatants, and it should be limited to only those that the U.S. is at war with, right?
Yeah.
So I have no idea how he's going to do that because Venezuela is not at war with the US. Mexico is not. Guatemala is not. Like nobody is at war with the US. Now, this is specifically for countries that are at war with the US, but he has been using a lot of rhetoric about invasion, right? Have you heard this?
Yeah.
The
Yeah. That's
invaders,
the first thing that I read about the bill online was that it applies to individuals from countries that you're in wartime with, or like a country that's invading yours, and that's been his rhetoric
yeah,
since day one. Is all these foreign invaders?
exactly. So he's probably not going to approach it through the war with the country, but it creates I forgot what the wording was, but yeah, basically an invasion right? And it creates national security or some bullshit like that, right? That's like the approach that he's doing. But then it's so arbitrary because just because you're from Venezuela doesn't mean you're from the Tren de Aragua.
Yeah.
But people here say, oh, he's Venezuelan. He committed some petty crime. Oh, he must be from the Tren de Aragua.
Right.
Why? Because of how they cut their hair, because how they dress, because of a tattoo they might have, but there is no like allegations or factual evidence that leads someone to think that they belong to that gang.
Hmm.
So now it's just a matter of interpretation based on the person who arrests them without due process. So it totally takes away due process.
Yeah, so no due process for anybody who's suspected of being in a Venezuelan gang, and the revocation of due process for any asylum seeker in the last 2 years. And he wants to end birthright citizenship, which would mainly apply to the children born in America of an undocumented migrant or asylum seeker. Has he announced any like large scale attempts to remove deportation hearings from all undocumented migrants in America, or is there anything that we've seen so far in his term to reduce the amount of time, effort, energy, and cost that it takes to deport any and all undocumented migrants?
Well, we know that he fired about 27 immigration judges, and
Okay.
immigration judges are the ones that review all the cases, the
Yeah,
asylum
interpret
claims.
those
Yeah,
claims. If
and
an
then
undocumented migrant is seeking any type of temporary or permanent residency, or if they might have a claim to asylum, so he's removing the judges that are more lenient, and probably can end up replacing them. And do you think that it's possible that he will extend this alien invader, whatever the fuck it's called, act to more migrants in America, not just
oh yeah,
members
yeah, yeah. I
suspected of being
mean,
a part of a Venezuelan gang?
yeah, exactly. So, like I mentioned, if he starts with the Tren de Aragua, it's just rhetoric, right?
Yeah.
Because uh, you saw what happened in Aurora, Colorado, and they attributed that to the Tren de Aragua. But the mayor came out and says nothing happened. There was no Tren de Aragua members who did anything, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So that's kind of like his little horse right now. But what's to stop him from like the cartels, right? And now you have all Mexicans that could be suspected of being members of the cartels.
Yeah.
They could expand to that, right? Now you can say, and he's already declared them T organizations. So, T organizations, Mexico, Mexicans. Now we have like what? We have millions and millions of Mexicans who are here, both legally and undocumented, right? And then we have like the Mara Salvatrucha or Barro 18, from Central America. I'm from Guatemala. So that could be expanded to that. And just anyone who they deem a national security, which is so ambiguous. Um, so this is just the beginning. And I hope that I'm thinking there's going to be an immediate challenge to this, hopefully the ACLU is already on this, and like other organizations pushing back on his definition of what he's trying to do right now with the Tren de Aragua, which I've never heard of the Tren de Aragua until the Aurora thing, right? So I don't even think it's such a big deal. Some other people might disagree with me, but I don't think it's enough to say that this is a national security problem or that we're being invaded by Venezuelans, specifically from El Tren de Aragua. All the Venezuelans that I know have no ties to El Tren de Aragua, and they're just fleeing political persecution.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, Rillo, I appreciate you coming up on the live and sharing your insight with us. I am infinitely more educated on the implementation of this act alongside other actions that Donald Trump has taken in his presidency that I was even unaware of. Just seriously, by like a 20-minute conversation with you and a 10-minute conversation with a lawyer prior. So I appreciate you so much for coming up here and educating literally every single one of us. I think
Listen,
go
what
ahead.
I do, just real quickly, what I do is I educate people about immigration.
Yeah.
So the asylum process, the claims, all the misinformation, I dedicate a lot of my time, more than I should sometimes, according to my wife, to help people learn about immigration and fight the misinformation out there. So I
Do you
would
do
love
that on
to.
live?
Yeah, I go into lives all the time. I try to do my own lives, but I jump around quite a bit. A lot of people know me here. We're all big fans of you. So
Well, I actually, I would maybe like one of these nights, I'd love to go live on like a backup account of mine and
yeah.
have a conversation with you because there's actually like a lot of questions that I have about the
Mhm.
processes of migration. And like, sure, maybe like this live isn't the best because I want to get back to debating some Trump supporters. But on
Right.
like maybe like one of these nights this week, I would love to go live with you. Like, first I was going to propose like an offline conversation, but like,
Yeah.
why restrict an audience? Like, we should do it like on live if you have time on my backup
Yeah,
account.
dude, I would
So
love to do that because there's
yeah.
really good information. You can ask me anything and we'll educate everyone,
Yeah, I have so
So,
many. I have so many questions, like about like the legal processes of migration, because I'm not gonna lie, I don't really know what the legal processes of migration are. All that I know is that they take a
mhm.
long time and they could be expensive for a lot. So like, I have a
Yeah.
lot of like very specific questions about like the legal processes of
Yep.
migration, insofar as like what they literally are, what it looks
Mhm.
like for somebody to want to legally migrate from a country outside of America to an American, what kind of forms of legal migration there are in the sense of,
Yep.
what does a process look like for a green card, or what does a process look like for a work
Yep.
visa? What does it look like for permanent residency? And is there any types of permanent residency outside of permanent citizenship? Or like, how long does that take? How much does it cost? What are migrants screened for in these different processes? What are the asylum seeking processes? What do those courts screen for? I've infinite questions, infinite questions. So
Dude,
I
I would
follow
love
you
to
and I love
spend
to
a
be in
few
there.
hours with you, like for
Yeah.
sure. You tell me when you and I will have an in-depth conversation. And this will help you with your debates because you
Mhm.
guys reach a bigger audience, you and Parker and all the fun dudes. And the more educated you guys are, the better educated a lot more people are. And maybe we can reach some actual change for an actual meaningful immigration reform that would help everyone, including the U.S. citizens as well as migrants. I have a lot of suggestions, and I would
I
love to spend
agree.
time.
No, I agree. It's super meaningful. And like, it's even very important for the left. Like, up until like a
Yeah.
month ago, like, I knew I disagreed with mass deportation and I didn't think that Donald Trump was good for immigration, but I
Mhm.
didn't really know like what would be better than what Kamala Harris was providing, where we've gone wrong in modern American
Mhm.
history. What is the solution to undocumented migration, if undocumented migration is even an issue, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Because what I feel like the left is lacking right now is strong, explosive, rhetorically,
Yeah.
appeasing positions on what is better for immigration compared to what Trump is doing. Because I feel like the average American right now has been so predisposed to just saying undocumented migration bad, the lowest numbers possible of all migration good,
Mhm.
and that's about it because that's what Donald Trump
Yeah.
has been telling everybody for the last 8 years.
He's been
So,
winning that battle, just like
mhm.
the misinformation battle. And as Democrats, I personally feel backstabbed by Democrats because they never had my back when it comes to the immigration. So that's why they lost a lot of the Latino vote. I can explain the whole situation and give you a rundown of the historical facts about it and why we need a big shift to like be more pro-immigrant and trying to get those votes back.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people just voted out of spite because even like the Langford Act, dude, I felt backstabbed because all it did was punish people. It didn't provide any solutions. And I know a lot of people thought it was a good thing, but it really isn't. And I can explain why, in our follow up conversation. I don't want to take
Yeah,
much of
yeah,
your time.
I would love to. No, because I was on Jubilee, I was doing my 1v20, and
Yeah,
like
I saw that.
immigration got brought up, and I was making some points as it would relate to the Langford Act and in support of the Langford Act, saying it's a good thing, saying like Kamala Harris's immigration policy is so good. Yeah, like the one major critique that I saw from a lot of people that have further left than me at the time was, oh, Dean's cool, but Dean's absolutely lived out this institutional like droid, standing behind anything that the Democrats say. And what that caused me to do is like look into the systems migration more and not just kind of align myself with what I think looks better on paper due to my priors insofar as conversations with other Democrats in a more institutional
Yeah.
sense, et cetera. And my immigration thoughts have shifted significantly farther left since then.
Mhm.
I'm like probably more ideologically aligned with like a leftist, like your more typical socialist on my
Mhm.
immigration views today. after learning more, but I would love to learn even more than I know now. So I say, yeah, let's hop on live. I followed you. I will message you, and I think that can
Okay.
be a very valuable and interesting
Dude,
conversation for
I'm
so many
at your
people.
disposition. I'll make some time, and be prepared to get depressed when I walk down the real issues on immigration. Frustrated, alarmed, uh, upset, all these emotions I might be able to draw from you once you understand the extensity of how stupid and horrible and unfair our immigration process is, and why I get so pissed when people say, well, do it the right way. If you're going to come here, do it the right way. There is no right way. And we can talk about that too.
Ah, perfect. I mean, like, of course, like, I don't want to be depressed and sad, but I want to know
No,
truth. I'm a truth seeker,
yes,
and that conversation would be like very valuable. So I
absolutely.
appreciate you for popping up. I appreciate you for being willing to have further conversation, and I'll DM you and we could schedule something out. I feel like it'd be valuable for me and thousands of other people.
That'd be awesome. That'd be awesome, my friend. Let's do
All
it.
right, cool.
Thank
Take
you.
care,
Thank
brother.
you for having me up. All
Of
right, take
course.
care.